And welcome back to Cloud9 on ACT on The Voice. We're talking diabetes today, and the title is "The Clock is Ticking." And like nobody wants to pay attention to the clock. It goes strike midnight just now. And we need Cinderella story. Glass slipper falls off. I don't think we want anything falling off right now because we may not be able to find it. So we're looking at our health. Yeah, it's so on set with me. I have a young man who will help us put some perspective on what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago as it pertains to diabetes. Welcome at this time, Mr. Prashant Maharaj. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Let me just give a little background. He is from Ocean Medi. It's one of the world's top medical education innovation companies, specializing in diabetes education and management. They are the only global team that has successfully combined nerve regenerative care and stem cell therapy in order to reduce the damage in a diabetic, pre-diabetic, and hypertensive patients. Mr. Maharaj is training, right?
Training, yeah.
As an EMT, that's emergency medical technician, and diabetes educator. So we're here talking about diabetes and response to this article. Now, were you at present at this lecture series?
Not this specific lecture, but there was one previously done.
Right. So I just want to touch on some things here. Again, we can go so far with this topic. It is not new to me as a journalist. Had a medical program before at WIN, so we dealt with this extensively. And that's why I made the point before. It's like a recurring decimal. It's like just revolving door of ignorance. Yeah. And it's like, when are we going to get it? But some startling points here, I think for me, I didn't know this. 500 amputations a year.
Well, we went past 500 this year. That was actually a record that they set.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, let's pause there for a second. 500 a year. More men, more women. What age group? Demographics. What areas? Can you give me some of that based on
as far as the research from Professor Narayansingh, he actually stated in the lecture approximately 20 years ago it was about close to 200 amputations
per year.
So we've more than doubled this year. As far as the demographics, well, I don't think he gave overall statistics in terms of zones. But with respect to our profession and our clinic as well, we've really targeted the south and central zones. You find out the highest concentration of diabetics, hypertensive patients, and heart cases normally come from these areas.
I know about the heart cases for sure, because I actually worked as an EMT with EHS for years.
Oh, fantastic.
So I have my level of experience, and a lot of times when we were responding to, let's say, what people call chest pain, it would be in specific areas.
Yeah.
You have like Pinal, Barapo, these areas. When it comes to diabetes, it will be areas like Point Fortin. So you also have, and I've heard that before, when it comes to the East Inner population, you'll have more of the heart disease, and Afro-Trinidadian, you'll have the diabetes. That's still more, or it doesn't really matter at this point?
I would say it's more, that's a generalization, but it's an older generalization.
Right.
Today we find that there's approximately 150,000 diabetics diagnosed in Trinidad and Tobago, but there's also 40,000 persons who are undiagnosed, right? And as far as the ethnicity aspect of it, there isn't really that much to say anymore.
But I know that was a point of reference that Afro-Trinidadian, diabetes, but that's not the case as...
Well, I would say Indo-Trinidadians would be more along the diabetic spectrum.
Right.
And then Afro-Trinidadians, you would find that the men especially, they would actually develop prostate issues as well.
Oh, okay.
Because
understood.
Statistically speaking, they are 2.5 times more likely to develop prostate issues than any other ethnicity.
What is happening in Trinidad, again, because we're looking at a situation now whereby, yes, I remember back then we could have gauged on ethnicity, and yes, the diet, of course.
Yeah.
But if we're going from 200 a year to 500, clearly it has broken all of those barriers of ethnicity and cultural background of that, because anyone is susceptible to getting anything. Where are we going wrong in Trinidad and Tobago? Because you said we've passed 500, we are not end of the year as yet. We still have a month and a half there about to go. What is going on?
I think it's a combination of things. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a very special culture. We have a melting pot of persons, but in my opinion, we tend to follow a certain line of lifestyle as well, too. In Trinidad, just like in the United States, China, and these other places, we have a very large amount of fast foods in our population. We also have a large amount of alcohol consumption, as well as smoking as well, too. Now, these companies are so massive now, they actually spend globally over $570 billion in terms of revenue,
Wow.
right? And it's highly unlikely that we could go to a fast food company and ask them, you know what, stop advertising and stop selling your products. Their products are in demand, and we need to understand that from an entrepreneurial perspective
So
as
it's
well
a
too.
personal decision that you basically have to take.
Well, I wouldn't say that as well too, because in 1916, Dr. Elliot Jocelyn from Boston University, he actually studied at Boston and Harvard Medical. And he was the first person to suggest lifestyle changes, which is where, in a personal aspect, you would go into a better exercise, a better diet, so on and so forth. But Sheldon, that's over 100 years ago. Has things changed since then? I mean, we have social media now. We have so many different things going on. And that solution, as we could see, hasn't worked. Because diabetes went from approximately 30 million persons at that time to now over 400 million persons globally.
It hasn't worked, but it could work. Because
can.
because I was listening to, I wish I could find it, Pastor Bechu, and he made the point, nobody's gonna police me or to tell me to eat this or to eat that. Is up to me.
Very true.
So again, it goes back to, as a people, as a culture, where did the mind shift take place that we are not even able to make conscious decisions for ourselves?
That's true. And you could also see that not just in our society, but other societies as well.
Because you know something is bad for you, you will still eat it.
Yeah.
You'll still drink it.
Like even in the USA, there are 30 million diabetics and 84 million persons who are pre-diabetic. They are moving towards diabetes. There's so many different associations as well too that claim to be helping with the situation, but I mean, it doesn't seem to be reducing the amount as well too. And as you said, policing yourself on diet and exercise. Remember, today adults have kids to deal with, they have jobs to go to. Even if you have a small business, that's like another child as well that you would have to take care of. To fit in diet and exercise into that would be very difficult. Worse yet now, we have our tablets, our phones as well too, which we are stuck on all the time. And these devices are designed to capture your attention in reality, right? So it would be very difficult to just say diet and exercise are the only two options.
You know, I think, and you're so right, because it's a very complex world we live in, but we have to be intentional about simplifying some things.
Very true.
Because the rat race of life, and I'm using that term, and I'm actually seeing like a rat trap. The rat race of life will have us one day running into this very rat trap. And the trap is advertising. The trap is
Marketing,
making
media,
that money. The trap is, I need to survive. And you're working 3, 4, 5 jobs and still know where the money is going. And on a morning, you're not making breakfast. You're making long lines with doubles vendor or whoever, not knocking anybody's profession. I'm just saying this is the reality. This is the reality, because people just don't have time, or they need help in managing their time.
Yeah. Even, well, again, confirming we're not knocking fast food outlets as well.
But it's just this.
Because they are entrepreneurs themselves. They are fulfilling a need that is very paramount all over the world.
Right.
But what we do is, as a diabetic patient in our clinic, we would look for the test first, which is the A1C test. I recommend that any person above the age of 30, they should do the A1C test as soon as possible.
Why that age?
Reason being is because we find that diabetics, it used to be above age 50. Now it's getting a lot younger and younger. We have a lot of patients now having to do bariatric surgery, right? Bariatric surgery is for obese patients, patients with a lot of weight on them that is very unhealthy, right? And the ages of that is going so low that it's even being suggested for kids as well too.
Because we have a situation for us with child diabetes as well.
Yes.
That's a big issue.
It's a big epidemic as well. And the reason why we suggest that age is because at that age, the adult is still a little more cognitive and still a little more aware of what is going on. They may have a couple of kids on one as well too, and probably have a little family job going on as well. One of the reasons why we target parents especially is because parents now, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you have to take care of two sets of persons, not just your kids, but also your parents as well too, who are moving towards retirement. And that's why we actually go to schools throughout South and Central Trinidad. We've done about 30 diabetes prevention lectures for these parents, free of charge. And that's why we're really trying to change not just the mindset, because in reality, we really can't change a person's mindset. They need to change that for themselves. But what we could do is we could give them options to prevent these issues from coming to pass.
I want to touch on, and we would have spoken about this during the break. I had this conversation with Minister John Rahel back in the day. I also had the same conversation briefly with Minister Diaz before he became Minister of Health. He was part of a meeting that we had at WIN TV back a few years ago about, because at the end of this is our country, and we have to do what we have to do to create some sort of balance. The power makers, the power breakers, the power brokers, as someone referred to them as well. Yeah, we have to do what we have to do to regulate and bring some sort of control.
Right.
So the suggestion was brought up on several occasions. Even Minister Fuad Khan, he also had made some suggestions as well, and I can say it openly, about meeting with the various stakeholders of various fast food outlets, and etc. And I think they did meet under Mr. Khan when he was Minister of Health about, yes, do your thing, but can we find healthier options to introduce as well as healthier options to prepare the meals?
Right.
Again, this is based on your information. Has that been successful? Because I know it was attempted, but I don't know if it was maintained, who would have been, quote unquote, policing them to make sure that they would have done. Do you think that has longevity in it, basically? Or it's going to be a problem to really see them being consistent?
Well, I haven't really had any interaction with them specifically. But, for example, my mom is a small business owner as well. And she actually makes a product called buttermilk, which is very healthy for a person, very good for probiotics and whatnot as well. And what I am seeing is that a lot of these bigger companies are basically being left alone and having themselves to do what they want to do. And the small and micro enterprise persons, they aren't really being assisted to push their possibly healthier products. Possibly, I'm not saying for sure. But
I understand.
Products that are locally made into the markets so that our local consumers can actually gain some kind of local products to use in their households that may be better, as opposed to constantly having these bigger chains to deal with all the time. Now, I'm not trying to bash them as well, too, because they
but it is a real issue. And I have, from where I sit, and they could target me on that. I know, I'm being honest, because I know for a fact that it was discussed and some would have implemented it. But as you rightly said, there's no one going to be regulating them. There's no one really going to be, because
in reality,
you know,
I mean, they're the big players in the market. We're not going to beat around the bush and say that they're not.
Right.
Again, $570 billion US a year speaks for itself.
Wow. I want to go back to the article briefly, and just some points that Dr. Narang Singh made. He said that we are 4th highest in the world. Yeah, I don't know. These figures are just amazing, right? He also mentioned, this one I want you to just kind of go in some detail for me. Narang Singh said 1/3 of people who lose a leg due to diabetic complications are likely to die within a year of surgery.
That is a fact, yes.
What are some of the extenuating factors for that? Because the reason for amputation is to try and save the life. So are we saying that even though you amputate, are we going to be honest with the patient and say, you know what, you may not make it?
Well, honestly, I'm not sure what the public health protocols are with respect to that.
Because someone's seeing this,
right?
And let's say they're going to get their foot, I'm just being real, and they're going to get their foot amputated, let's say tomorrow.
Right.
Now, we all know how the body works. If it is you going to this surgery with fear and anxiety, it actually adds to your body breaking down physically.
Lead to depression as well.
Lead to depression, and you'll get sick, and you may have lived longer than a year. So I'm just saying, what are some of the factors that would minimize even taking the leg off, that they will still die?
Well, in the vast majority of these cases, the reason for taking off the leg is because previously there was an infection into the toes as well too, a gangrenous infection. We have 2 types, a wet gangrene, which is usually dark in color, and a white gangrene or dry gangrene, right? The reason why they've taken off these toes and eventually we call it the below the knee amputation.
Right.
That's when it's progressed further. The reason why is to ensure that that infection doesn't reach the heart, because if it reaches the heart, well,
Right.
we definitely have someone in a box.
But so there are no guarantees then, even though
No, there
you're
are no
trying.
guarantees. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing about these infections is that it's very difficult to regulate them, especially with the types of antibiotics that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. But the amputations itself, as mentioned in the article, we have a lot of one-legged persons basically living off of welfare with the country. Even the family members as well too, of these families, they are disheartened as well too, because they now have to take care of this patient as well. Again, too, with respect to public health aspect of it, because that's what my medical team specializes in, public health. It doesn't make sense to look at it from a surgeon's perspective, from a diabetologist's perspective, or even as an EMT's perspective. We need to look at this as a public health issue, because it will encompass everything that happens within the public, and also not just on the individual level, but with the institutions, private stakeholders, so on and so forth. Back to what we were saying with the fast food companies, my doctors, they also did their MBAs as well too. And in the MBAs, they actually showed a 4-links model where we could actually work with the fast food companies, pharmaceutical companies, top innovators like myself and my medical team, and the government in a 4-links way to dispatch corporate social responsibility.
That is excellent, and that's what I'm talking about. When are we going to really address this issue in a comprehensive, holistic manner and stop going through this revolving door? Because again, we know. Do you think that surprised me today? The figure that much got me. You know, I'll be honest. I didn't really know it was so large.
No, this is just in the hospitals. Remember, there are also patients who are private in their homes who may have had a couple toes amputated, but they aren't at the stage where the entire leg is gone. And we don't count the ones who've actually had the infection reach up to the heart and they are now deceased.
Wow.
Yeah. Even this morning, I was actually at a funeral to one of my neighbors. He actually had a stroke a few years previously. And that's also a major issue as well, too.
Wow. Let's take a short break. It's going to be very interesting. We could talk all evening about this, but let's take a break when we come back. We'll touch on something that he mentioned to me about pediatrician workers, and this is very alarming indeed. But again, it shows how everything is very connected when it comes to any illnesses that we face, as a matter of fact. You know, I always say we live in this space called life, and it's about relationships. And funny, there are good relationships and there are bad relationships. And somehow the bad always seem to contaminate the good, you know, whenever so often. So you have to do what you have to do to stay, not be contaminated. When we come back, we talk about that and some more of what Mr. Maharaj and his organization does in Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're watching ACTN, The Voice. ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
Hey TNT, what's up? This is yours truly Positive, all the way from the beautiful island of Tobago, and you're locked onto ACTN, The Voice. We serve a mighty God, mighty, 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 mighty. Olua is mighty, oh. Blessed love.
In my ill sickness in my body, we serve a mighty God, mighty, 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 mighty.
Hey, listen, we have some great news for you, our loyal viewers. No, we love to interact with you on a daily basis. So, sometimes do it by telephone, otherwise Facebook. But now we've added our new WhatsApp phone number. That's right, you can now text us live on our various programs right here on ACTN The Voice at 360-0105. That's 360-0105. Send us your comments, send us your questions, and get this even better. After the lights come off, You can continue sending your comments and your questions, and we'll respond to them the following day. So that's right here on ACT and The Voice, we have now opened up more mediums for you to interact with us. Facebook, telephone call, and now you can WhatsApp your comments and questions right here on ACT and The Voice.
ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
All right, welcome back to Cloud9. We're talking about diabetes in Trinidad and Tobago, 500 amputees per year. And it is more, but based on the records we have here as well. And this in itself is frightening. I'm here with Mr. Prashant Maharaj. All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about what you mentioned about the Petrotrin employees. And I want people to listen to this, and maybe this is why you saw Mr. Roger this morning, really concerned about the medical plans that seem to be up in the air and the pension plans, because as you know, Republic Bank sent out a letter last week, very concerned as the trustee as to the state of the pension plan, $2.73 billion deficit, as you would have heard me read earlier. Medical plans are kind of up in the air. Some of the workers are very concerned. And you would have interacted with some of them. What did you learn?
Well, a couple of them were former patients of my doctors. And they actually passed away a couple of years ago as well, too. They were also diabetic patients. They had a multitude of issues, especially with their eyes as well. A lot of people aren't aware, but cataracts and glaucoma are very much prevalent in diabetic patients. One of the things that we proposed as well to the OWTU was actually doing a probe into the amount of patients who are not just diabetic, but pre-diabetic as well. Pre-diabetes basically means that these persons are moving towards diabetes. So within, let's say, 5 to 10 years, they will be full-blown diabetics.
So if you intercept it at that point, you have the possibility of
preventing
it happening.
Because there's no cure for diabetes. We don't report to have a cure as well, too. But what we try to explain is that our management system is so good that we could actually prevent the amputations, we could prevent the eye diseases, we could prevent the dialysis as well too. When it comes to these Petrotrin workers, they aren't really sure if they're going to get any compensation at all, to be honest.
That, of course, is where the issue was the press conference this morning. Yeah.
And with that, I don't think they're taking into consideration the medical issues that will arise, not now, but within the future as well.
And I think they're going into some detail about that. We have to understand this is an industry, a refinery. You are dealing with a multitude of gases and different liquids and environment. And the toxicity alone, yes, we talk about safety standards, but let's be real, it is not always...
No, it's not at all.
It's not 100% guarantee, you know?
And even, there's all these stress-related issues as well, too, of working in that industry.
Right.
Not to mention the entire stress of losing your job. Remember, in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as with the University of the West Indies, we focus on producing engineers. And we have a lot of young engineers who are coming out into the field, and they're seeing all this disruption in the market, especially with Petrotrin. And there would be added stress upon them as well.
And that stress can actually lead.
It would.
Yeah.
Especially if their parents are working at Petrotrin. They will see that their parents would have sacrificed for so long to actually get them into school, to get them into this zone, to go into this industry that is about to be totally wiped out.
What if you would identify some of the, we're going to go a little more in the specifics of the medical side of it now. If you would identify some of the triggers for diabetes, basic triggers, what are some of the, you have the eating, but what are the triggers?
Right, well, a combination of poor diets, lack of exercise, increased stress as well too, from family issues, external job factors, so on and so forth. Drinking excessive alcohol as well too. You find that diabetic patients and pre-diabetic patients, their liver tends to be covered in fat, and they get liver cirrhosis as a result. That is actually a very big problem. Also too, there's smoking as well. You tend to get patients who are diabetic and smoke. They have COPD, yeah? And that tends to also lead to a whole bunch of other issues. So there are a combination of issues that could deal with this. And oddly enough, Trinidad, well, not all Trinidadians, but most Trinidadians, especially those above the age of 35, they tend to fall in this type of lifestyle.
I remember when I did an interview some years ago when they had introduced a new one of those rare bottles of Johnny Walker. It wasn't blue, it was some some exclusive, whatever it was. And I remember when they asked me to interview the individual. At that time, I used to drink, I had stopped drinking, so whatever.
Right.
So it's kind of real airy, but I'm a professional. I did my thing.
Right.
But what
It was a social setting.
Yeah. So it's fine. So I interviewed the individual. That was the marketing rep from the U.S., whatever. But what he said to me was what was alarming. He said part of the reason why they came to Trinidad to launch, as one of the countries to launch this thing, which I think was going to like about 5,000 a bottle or something like that.
Wow.
There about something so. He said because Trinidad and Tobago, they, in terms of the amount of people, right? He said they make millions. No, he said in a good way, of course.
Yeah.
They. But when I really thought about
it's great.
I'm like, he said we're the third country at that time in the world that consume.
Of only 1.4 million people.
I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, I was part of that guilty batch, right? So, and I'm saying that to say it is a frightening reality of how much we drink.
It is, yeah.
And how much we smoke. And nobody can tell me because I walked that road for years. And I don't think people are getting how dangerous drinking excessively is.
It is. And then they combine it with their medication too. So remember, diabetics would be on a certain type of medication to help lower the blood sugar as well too.
That's right.
However, in Trinidad and Tobago, we tend to overprescribe medication because the blood sugar is so high. That in combination with alcohol use and smoking, it's a recipe for disaster.
Your organization, you also mentioned something with, I think it was stem cells.
Stem cell.
Tell us more about that as well, please.
Well, stem cell surgery is one of those topics that's kind of up in the air these days. We hear about stem cells being extracted from unborn babies or baby fetuses. We don't practice that. That is against the laws of God, in our opinion, and we don't want to really promote that type of thing.
Right. Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. There's also stem cell transplants, which is where they take the stem cells from a young person, put it into a regular human being who needs the stem cells.
Right.
Now, that is somewhat effective. However, 75% of those cells die off within the transference.
Right.
What we do is we actually use a supplement that actually increases your own stem cell production.
Okay.
And it's a lot more affordable than actually going through the surgery. Surgeries cost about 20,000 US per session. You have to do about 6 of these. And that's the Chinese pricing of it as well. So if you go to the US, it's a lot more. Yeah. We've worked with a number of different patients who've shown a lot of really, really promising results. We usually specialize in stroke patients, but we've realized that we could actually take this treatment, combine it with nerve regenerative therapy, because many diabetics and pre-diabetics, they have heavily damaged nerves. They usually complain about burning in their feet, numbness. In local terms, it's called junjuni. They would complain about that. And that's actually the prelude towards the toes being cut off, so on and so forth.
Right.
So there are warning signs that you could look out for. And in our presentation, we talk about that as well.
All right, and the supplement, what is the component of these supplements?
Right. Well, there's actually a simple growth hormone that is used. It's actually extracted from chicken eggs.
Okay.
And we actually combine that with omega-3, 6, and 9, as well as CoQ10s. Why we use these additions is because diabetic patients and pre-diabetic patients, they tend to have a lot of fat around the stomach, as well as in the internal organs. It's very difficult for them to absorb nutrients. So these omega-3s, they're actually fat soluble. So it's easily absorbed into the system. And over extended use, we don't look at a overnight fix. We look at either 6 months to a year of treatment, and you see drastic results within 3 months, but we look at the entire year.
Very interesting indeed. Just to go back just a couple of minutes, you mentioned about the toes, just so those may have been attention. What exactly do they have to look out for in terms of?
Usually it sounds like a pin, sorry, not sounds, it feels like a pin sticking you in your feet.
Okay.
That's the first sign. The second sign is that it could be a burning sensation going from the bottom of the foot.
And that's more or less pre-diabetes, that's already?
It could be both.
Could be both, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The thing about diabetics is that when they are diagnosed as a diabetic, they're always surprised. They were like, what? I'm a healthy person. How could I be diabetic? But the truth is they've been diabetic for some time before. It's just that they now realize about it. Pre-diabetics tend to show very similar symptoms to diabetics as well too.
Like what? Just have you a couple of minutes or two, just can you run through some symptoms?
Just like the pins and needles sensation, the burning as well too. The final stage is actually when the foot goes totally numb. And that's where they could actually knock their foot on a piece of metal
and
or
not feel a thing.
Not feel a thing. And get some kind of cut as well too. And when you get that cut, usually you have sweat around your feet and gets severely infected. If they don't know about it and they don't treat it in time, that's where we get the amputations coming in.
All right, so I really want to thank you. I have to bring you back again, I'm sure, someday.
I'd love to come
back. Right, if you want to make contact with the organization, where you're located, the contact information.
Yeah, we're located on number 78, Concord Road, Laramie, really close by.
All right.
And the contact number is 794-8191. That's 794-8191.
That's 794-8191, and it's Ocean Medi, right?
Ocean Medi. They could actually WhatsApp us on that number as well, too.
Facebook?
We're building the Facebook page on the website right now. Yeah.
Thanks a million. Really informative discussion today on diabetes in Trinidad and Tobago. Diabetes taking toll on TNT, Trinidad and Tobago. The bottom line is this. Everything that we said here, it still boils down to choice. But bottom line, whether the temptations are there, the advertising enticing you, the different challenges, yes, all over you go, don't you have fast food, the healthy food too expensive, yeah, we know all of that. But it still boils down to choice. And it is really scary what I'm seeing. Many children get diabetes. I have seen parents giving children certain things to school, and I cringe sometimes. Sometimes I just get a sugar rush just watching something, what I see in some grocery baskets. I try my best with my daughters, but I know, it could be tough, but it boils down to choice, all right? So thanks again to Mr. Maharaj, and thanks to all of you viewing us today on Cloud 9 on ACT and The Voice. I'm Sheldon Yearwood. Take care of yourselves and each other, and God bless you.